Hey guys, welcome back to another Spy Family Sunday. Today I'm here to review chapter 119 of the manga. This chapter was really long, so I want to jump straight into it. A lot happened. I'm not upset about that, but I do sort of want to focus in on the things that I found most important. If you're new here, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving me a comment. So the chapter starts off with Hemlock getting back to the main base, and he's greeted by the shopkeeper. Hemlock is sort of apologizing for his behavior, his little squabble with Yor. Shopkeeper doesn't really mind it. He says that he understands why Hemlock did it because he was also concerned about Yor's skills sort of diminishing. The shopkeeper doesn't seem to mind that Hemlock is questioning his strength and what truly makes somebody strong. And then he asks Hemlock if Yor is strong. And the only thing that concerned me about this interaction, I am starting to get a little suspicious about Shopkeeper. I think everybody's suspicious about him, but I just feel why is he constantly worried about Yor being strong? Is she strong? What's going on with her? He's always worried about whether or not she's strong. And it's dude, is there not a way to monitor their missions? Do they not have to turn in mission briefing packets? Is he not getting information from Yor's boss? I don't understand why he's constantly worried about her being strong. I just find it a little strange that he doesn't seem to really have a lot of faith in her. That kind of bugs me. We move on from that, and Hemlock is greeted by Gimpy. Gimpy offers him this little bag that she wants to give to Yor because Gimpy says that I too am envious of Yor. I feel I want to make it up to her. This is a way to reconcile and please give this to her. Of course, Hemlock is sort of flustered by this because he's I'm not envious and all of this stuff. You know how he carries on. He takes the baggie from Gimpy and agrees to deliver it to Yor. We flash to a scene where Yor is waking up and she's oh my god, our date is today. And we get a flashback as to how that happened. At the end of last chapter, Yor knocks on Lloyd's door. They're sort of talking, and she's still thinking I really don't want to tell him about my job, but I can't stand all of this. And then we realize that Yor's actually in pain, her arm is killing her from her squabble with Hemlock. And so she remembers that drink that she had that cured all of her pain when she went on that mission and she got shot in her ass, basically. And she was I had a drink there, it made the pain go away. And so through a series of circumstances, she ends up asking him hey, remember that restaurant we went to, blah blah blah, let's go there tomorrow. And Lloyd is why the urgency? Yor's thinking about her companions, she's thinking about the director, she's thinking about Hemlock. And so they agree to go out on a date. Frankie comes over and he's gonna watch Anya and Bond. Frankie asks Anya, hey, you wanna follow them again? She's I'm bored with that. So we don't have to deal with any Anya shenanigans in this chapter. The date is starting and Yor's I need to get to this restaurant. We need to get there. This pain is crazy. Lloyd is sort of confused. He's why? It's basically the same shenanigans from their first date. She's in pain. She wants to get that drink. Lloyd is they're probably not even open for lunch yet. It's really early. And she's that's fine. And so they go there anyways. And Yor's what was that drink I had last time? And she was I don't know. It was a cocktail of some sort. And so Yor is just throwing them back. None of them are helping, obviously, because it's not blowfish poison. She ends up getting hammered anyways. Eventually they leave and they're just walking about, and they run into their neighbors, those two middle-aged women, and they're oh, you guys are so cute together. Yor's drunk and she's hey, do you guys give welcome home kisses? And they're oh, how shameful. And Lloyd is what are you asking them about? And Yor sort of excuses herself. She's hey, I need to go to the bathroom. She's thinking to herself, I gotta change these bandages. And so she sort of stumbles off to the bathroom, and suddenly she notices this bloodlust come out of nowhere, and she's huh, what's going on? I feel this malice. She sees Hemlock behind this sort of building off to the corner, and she's Hemlock. So they meet around the corner, which is by the main river, I'm guessing. Yor's what are you doing here? We shouldn't be seeing each other. What if Lloyd sees you? Hemlock's not having any of that. He's it doesn't matter. I'm not so inept that I would allow myself to be seen or spotted. And so they're talking, and then suddenly we get this panel of a pair of binoculars looking at them from the opposite side of the river. And at first I was freaking out. I was is this Lloyd Lloyd like spying on them? That would be crazy. But it actually turns out to be Yor's co-workers, Camilla, Sharon, and Millie. I think that's the redhead's name, I'm pretty sure. And so they're like, what is Yor doing on the deck, like with this other man? Like, who is this hot man that she's talking to? And like, why would she be talking to another man while she's out on a date with her husband? And so of course they're like forming all of these conclusions in their mind. And Hemlock's like, hey, this is from Gimpy, she just wanted to give this to you, and I came here to deliver it. And Yor's like, oh, thank you. And like, thank you so much. And Hemlock's, I only came here to give this to you. I don't like being in crowds. I'm gonna go. And so he leaves. Of course, he sort of considers to himself, well, maybe I need to be in crowds. Like, maybe that will make me stronger. Yor goes to the bathroom. She applies this ointment to her arm that makes her feel like better immediately. And then she meets Lloyd outside again, and he notices that she's in a much better mood. They continue talking. He's like, why don't we keep exploring the city? Like, let's have some fun. And then he senses that people are watching them as well. And he sort of like turns back and sees that Camille, Sharon, and Millie are spying on them. And he's like, aren't those your coworkers? Like, why are they following us? And then Camilla's like, oh no, like they spotted us, but we still have to keep following them. And Lloyd is sort of like, they're watching us. What, maybe we should, I don't know, get out of here or something. They end up holding hands, that way they can continue this facade of being like this lovey-dovey couple. Of course, Lloyd is like super serious about this. He's like thinking to himself, like, if we want to perceive ourselves as this couple, like holding hands is the best strategy. And of course, Yor's like freaking out and blushing and all of this kind of stuff. Lloyd is telling her like, hey, we need to walk in sync. That way people don't get suspicious. But, Yor can't handle all of this like sudden affection. And so she's freaking out. He's freaking out, wondering what's going on with Yor because she's like squeezing his hand like really hard. He's like, she's gonna squeeze my damn hand off. And so he's like, look, you're a butterfly. And so they pretend to go like chase a butterfly, and eventually they lose like Camilla, Millie, and Sharon. And so they go off to a secluded spot. It's that spot where Yor goes to like when she's on break at City Hall. Yor's just thinking to herself like, is this appropriate? Is this inappropriate? And she's thinking about in regards to what Hemlock thinks about their relationship. And then she starts considering like, maybe Hemlock is right. Lloyd is sort of looking at her and he says, I'm glad we picked somewhere quiet to just sit and observe. And Yor is sort of reflecting on the time that they have been there together. She's thinking to herself how she hasn't really been needed lately, which is crazy. She's like, I don't need to come here at all because I feel like things that matter to me are when I'm at home. And she just straight up asked Lloyd, she's like, so listen, our marriage, how much longer do you think that's going to continue? And Lloyd is taken aback by this. He wasn't expecting her to ask. And so he is going through like a ton of scenarios in his head. And he's like, why is she asking me this? Does she not want to be in this situation anymore? Like, what does that mean for Operation Strix? Like, should I converge to Plan C? He's having his own internal crisis. But he's cool, calm, and collected about the whole situation. And Yor goes on to continue. She says, there's going to be a time when Anya graduates and our agreement is going to come to an end and like we're just going to move on. But for me, I think, and she's sort of like leaving this in the air, like she hasn't completely said what she's saying, but she's thinking to herself, she wants this to continue forever, which in my mind tells me as a reader that Yor has finally realized and started to understand her own feelings. Like, she wants this to continue forever. It doesn't matter if Anya graduates. Like, she wants this to be her forever home. Like, this is not pretend for her anymore. So great characterization, great character progress for Yor. And which is why she's asking him all of this. Lloyd is just saying like, I don't know how Operation Strix will develop in the future, but this has its own benefits. And he's thinking this to himself, but he's telling Yor like, I want this to continue, and I know that Anya does too. Like, Anya would be so happy. Yor is like, but what about you, Lloyd? Because like, she wants him to be honest. And of course Lloyd is like, yeah, I would very much appreciate it if this continues, but that's not what Yor wants to hear. She's like, I think I want to know like how Lloyd actually feels. Like, I want to know what he feels about our situation. And then she starts thinking about her director and how he was saying like, against all reason, I would hope that she would. But then she's like, or maybe to hope for that would be selfish of me. And that's how the chapter ends. So really good chapter. A lot happened. But the main point is that Yor understands how she feels about Lloyd, and she understands how she feels about this family, and she wants it to go on forever. So, which is basically like a love confession. So I don't know what's going to happen next chapter. I don't know if, she's going to bite the bullet and be like, look, I want this to go on forever. Our home is my home. And like, I don't want that to end. And to see like how Lloyd is going to react to that. Like, I'm glad she's having a lot of internal dialogue, but while Lloyd is here, it's like, Yor, we need to take advantage of the situation right now. It's like, rip the Band-Aid off. Like, tell him what you want to tell him. It's not selfish to want to know how your partner is feeling, so I'm very excited for next chapter. I hope that, Lloyd is a little slower when it comes to, figuring all of this out, because he's just like mission, and his internal crisis about Operation Strix. But we know that Lloyd has feelings for Yor. It's just coming to the surface of his mind is a little more difficult than it is for Yor. Like, we haven't had a lot of honest dialogue, internal dialogue with his character. So I don't know how that's going to fare for next chapter. Maybe she'll be the first one to confess, and then, he'll be sort of like, frazzled by that, and then we'll get some chapters with him and his internal dialogue on what's happening. But either way, it was a fantastic chapter, and a big step, honestly, a big step for Yor. So we will see how or if this is reciprocated in the next chapter. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, remember to be awesome and stay true.